The Pacers are 1-3, and three things held them back in their loss to the Magic tonight. Some of them familiar themes. Tony East here with Forbes. Lots to break down from Pacers Magic. A fun game in general. In fact, very close to something similar to that happened Monday, where had the Pacers won Monday, a lot of that post-game video would have been dedicated to talking about Aaron Nesmith's heroics and improved play from Tyrese Haliburton scoring, and lots of other good stuff that did happen for the Pacers against the Sixers. Against the Magic tonight, a lot of the discussion had the Pacers won would have been their identity coming back. Haliburton nearly triple-doubles. Siakam was very good. They got good contributions from other guys. Isaiah Jackson's best game in a long time. There's so many positives they could have taken away from this game, but none of that matters when you come up short again. 3 times this season, the Pacers have been ahead or tied with 35 seconds or less to go in their game. They only have one win for the whole year. And this game, again, saw that happen, tied with 35 seconds to go in their 119-115 loss to the Magic. 3 things, the decider in this game. Number 1, the most obvious, Paolo Banchero. Unbelievable. He almost played 40 minutes. The Magic only won his minutes by 3 in a 4-point win. So I guess the Pacers should have done better in the non-Paolo minutes, which does matter a great deal. The early fourth quarter was huge for the Magic in that they survived with him off. But Banchero, I'm burying the lead, 50 points. First 50-point game in the NBA this season. He does a lot of stuff moderately well as a scorer. He's efficient because he can get to the line. He took 22 free throws in this game, a little absurd. He actually missed quite a few of them. What made him lethal in this game is his jumper, which is normally just pretty good and not awesome, was tremendous, especially like mid-rangers and long twos, shots that you're normally willing to live with. He was burying them at an unreal rate. And he has this Julius Randle-like quality where he can kind of just barrel through guys and get to the rim and draw fouls and finish. I kind of expect that against the Pacers. Didn't matter who the Pacers put on him. Siakam, Nesmith, Nembhard all had turns on him. None of them could do much. They tried centers for a few possessions. They got to doubling a little late for my taste. I'm not the coaching staff, but I think they should have gone to that earlier. In the third quarter, they did well. I don't think he scored at all or hit any shots, at least in that quarter. But he got going again in the fourth, and that was huge for the Pacers because the Pacers did a lot well offensively in this game, but they could not stop one guy. Jalen Suggs got hot from 3 early. That was a big deal. But the biggest deal specifically was just that. They could not stop Paolo Banchero at all. No matter who was on him, no matter what coverage they threw at him, something went well for the Orlando Magic. 50 points. That was obviously the biggest thing the Pacers can point to and say they lost. If he has 45, they win. 45! And they win. That's what Maxey had 2 nights ago. And that's a theme that I've noticed with the Pacers that comes to this point is 4 games in, have the Pacers had the best player on the court in a single one of them. You could look at the Detroit game and say Mathurin in the fourth. Siakam was okay for that a lot of that game. Outplayed Cade, but Cade in the second half was so good, you could say Cade was the best player. And if you think Cade was the best player in the Detroit game, I don't know that I do, but if you think that's the case, which is reasonable, I would say, then there has not been a game where the Pacers have had the best player on the floor. Brunson or Cat, obviously in MSG. No one was good for the Pacers in MSG. Clearly Maxey Monday. Clearly Paolo Banchero tonight. That's a huge problem for the Pacers as they try to get back on track. I thought they'd be 2-2 by now when I did my preseason schedule predictions. Thing 2 that went wrong for the Pacers in this game, free throws. There's not a lot of analysis to say about this. In fact, there's basically none. Make them. They need to go in. What do you want me to say? Focus? There's not anything to add. 20 for 30. They would have been... It would have been a whole different game. You can go to the end and look at the Pacers fouling on purpose or whatever. But if they go 25 for 30, they win. They just win. That's a high percentage. If they go 20 for 30, they're right in it. Pacers right now in the NBA are 29th in free throw percentage. 29th at 71.6. Philly game also had a bunch of free throw issues. I felt like in the third quarter, the Pacers' best quarter of the game by far. They split a pair a bunch. If they made all those and had maybe 45 points that quarter, guess what? They win the game. Free throws killing the Pacers this season. And that's extra important, being 29th in a category where it's the easiest points. You're at the line. No one can contest your shot. Everybody should be making at least 75% of those. Well, guess what? If the Pacers were doing that, they would have not been in crunch time, which is thing 3 that sunk the Pacers in this game. Again, I said this off the rip, and this is a theme for the team again. 3 games this season, Knicks game notwithstanding, because they got pummeled and couldn't make a three. 3 games this season, the Pacers have been tied or winning inside the last 35 seconds. They won in Detroit. They lost dramatically to the Sixers, and they just lost tied in that moment to the Magic. They cannot close games. The Pacers were up 8 with 7.5 minutes to go. They lost by 4. They lost the last 7.5 minutes of this game by 12 points. They were up 5 even later than that. And again, Banchero came back in. The Pacers just could not close again. They cannot play with a lead in the fourth quarter. And that has been really killing them. I forget when it was when they went up 5 late that I thought they might have had this one. I believe it was when Obi Toppin hit a corner 3 with just over 5 minutes to go, and they went up 5. Immediately after that, Wendell Carter scores. Andrew Nembhard misses. Paolo Banchero scores. It's a 1-point game. In comes a new lineup for the Pacers to try to get it back on track. And they stayed ahead or tied for a while, but they just couldn't do it. They just couldn't get enough stops at all. Almost every trip, the Magic were scoring down the stretch. Defense crushed them late. They did okay offensively. Haliburton hit a key 3. For example, Siakam was doing good stuff, but they had a turnover. They had a couple turnovers, really. Nesmith fouled out. Just not the close they needed at all. This goes back to the Philly game. They didn't close well. They didn't close well in overtime or the fourth quarter of that game. And those are the 3 things that really killed the Pacers in this game. They couldn't finish. They gave themselves a chance with an awesome third quarter, and they couldn't finish. They could not stop Paolo Banchero, and they shot themselves in the foot at the foul line. And that is how you become 1-3 in a game where you played pretty well. Again, I said this also pretty early in this video. The Pacers had a lot they could be happy about. This was the most Pacers-y they looked, and it feels weird to say that because I feel like I'm just overlapping that with made shots. They did make threes. They didn't take very many, but they made threes. They got their turnovers down to a reasonable number of 12. Their pace felt faster to anyone watching the game. They would have taken a bunch of shots if they didn't take so many free throws. That's very Pacers-y. Get a lot of shots up. Keep it moving. Play fast. Score points. That's all great. Even though the game was arrhythmic because of all the free throws, they still felt fast and zippy. This felt like the Pacers. And I think a lot of that was Tyrese Haliburton had the ball a lot. 19 points, 10 assists for Haliburton. As close to it gets as his stat line last year of 21-10. 21-11, really. He was there. That was him. 4 for 9 from deep. The twos weren't there. That was the closest to Tyrese Haliburton we've seen this season. That's great. The pace was there. That's great. Siakam was awesome. I think for 48 minutes, that was the best performance from a Pacer this season from him. And all that did not matter. That was not enough for the Pacers, who could not get timely rebounds, who could not stop Paolo Banchero, who could not make the plays in the clutch, who couldn't hit enough free throws when it mattered, and were trying to find the right lineups throughout the game to get stuff done. Some weird ones. 2 guys playing under 6 minutes, only 1 stint. Strange. I wouldn't say bad. I would say strange. And the Pacers have to figure it out. Their schedule does not get easier. Boston Wednesday at home, then on the road in New Orleans, then in Dallas, then Orlando again. I said for a while before the season, their first 13 games were going to be crucial. If they can get 6 or 7 wins in that stretch, they should feel good. Well, now they're 1-3. Their next 9 games, they need to win 5 of them. It's going to be hard. They've got to figure stuff out. We'll have more to break down all their games on this channel, and you can find me over to Locked On Pacers Podcast for 30 minutes on this game and some of the Pacers themes from early season. Thanks for watching. See you Wednesday after Pacers Celtics.